I'm Mary Allison Brown. I'm a mental health therapist and a coach, and I'm on a mission to redefine self-care. Okay, welcome back to Self-Care Redefined. Today we are focusing on the movement pillar of the 5 pillars of foundational self-care. The 5 pillars of foundational self-care, if you haven't listened to previous episodes, is an evidence-based framework of 5 specific actions you can take to support mental and emotional health and well-being. And so today I'm so excited to be here with Dre Williams and Jennifer Dadigan, the owners of Making of Champions, M.O.C Fitness, who are movement specialists who are going to fill us in on everything we need to know about how to implement the movement pillar into our lives and why it is so important. So thank you so much for being here. Would you like to share some of your background credentials? Like, how did you get into this field? Why is this so important to you?
Why don't you go first?
Yeah, I've been in the fitness and wellness industry for over 20 years. I have a bachelor's in human development, and I am a retired massage therapist of 10 years. And movement and exercise have been in my life for most of my life. And I'm really grateful because the fact that I've been in the fitness industry has really propelled me into my own self-care. So it's been very paramount in my life.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because it's literally your business to take good care of yourself.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I've been in the industry for about 22, going on 23 years. I knew from the start, from graduating high school, this is what I was going to do. So I went to school, I got my master's in human kinetics, a bachelor's in exercise science, and kind of did just about all the certifications to really set myself up for this industry. And yeah, it's been amazing. Worked with a couple companies and reached the status of master trainer. So basically, for me, I competed as an athlete professionally, ended up competing also in CrossFit as well, and just really feel as though that there's nothing like movement. I feel like our bodies are engineered to adapt and move, and
Yes.
the best thing we can do is just kind of give that back to it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense to me. I was an athlete growing up too. And so movement was like always just a part of my life. Like that was just a given, right? You took it for granted. Like you're always training, exercising, but it wasn't like something you felt forced to do. It was just like that was a lifestyle. And obviously for many people now, that is not the case. And we don't get nearly enough movement. And what I see a lot in my clients, I work with a lot of clients who struggle with depression and anxiety. And I see a lot of clients who kind of stay in their head, right? There's this racing thoughts and we move, from sitting on the couch to watching TV to working at a computer. And so there's this huge loss of movement. And from the research I've done, one of the things across the board consistently that always improves mood, improves energy levels, improves focus, concentration, memory, all of those things is exercise. And so can you share a little bit about why exercise, why movement is so important for mental health, for how we feel emotionally?
Well, I'm going to say something that's probably a little unorthodox and just
I love unorthodox.
a thought provoker, okay? Especially for people that are in their minds and do have issues with anxiety and depression. An exercise routine and movement can actually be negative to our mental health. I'm going to say that. Hang in there with me. I know that's like, what is she talking about? What is
I'm waiting for it.
The reason being is because we often think it's an all or nothing mentality. And so if we're not doing an hour a day, 5 days a week, then we're not doing anything for our bodies. And what's the point? And that, then we set ourselves up for failure because we usually bite off more than we can chew, and we're like, I'm gonna start working out. I'm gonna start this workout program. I'm gonna go 5 days a week, an hour a day, because I am so excited about getting my fitness in check, and I'm gonna start this whole new nutrition plan. And I'm gonna be so perfect about my nutrition. I'm not gonna eat I'm gonna go through my cupboards and throw out all my junk, and I'm gonna be perfect about everything. Perfect. And then maybe we do okay for a few days, if we're lucky, maybe a week. And then we set ourselves up for failure because we took on too much at once. And then we sink into that anxiety. We overthink it. We get stressed out. We feel bad about ourselves. We feel like a failure, which we can talk about that later. It's not a failure. It's a learning experience.
Oh, yeah.
That's how we sink deeper into our anxiety and our depression. And that's where an exercise routine can be negative if you're not facing it and taking it properly.
Yes, I see that all the time where people want to overcommit because they feel like they should. They feel like that's the right thing to say. And so I'll ask people, how much time can you commit to all 5 pillars together? How much time can you commit every day? And people will be like, an hour. I'm like, no, you can't because exactly what you said, it's a setup for failure. And then what happens is people aren't able to maintain this massive change that they're trying to create. And then they start engaging in negative self-talk. They start beating themselves up, and that spiral starts all over again. So, Dre, do you have anything to add about that before we move forward?
I'm piggybacking on what Jen said. Like, oftentimes we've defined working out as lifting weights, and you have to go to the gym. And if it's one thing that this pandemic might have taught folks, is you don't need a gym. I mean, it's
very true
for folks that need that tactile place to go to, but you don't truly need a gym. Surrounding yourself with likewise people that are focused on the same thing helps. So it's like Jen and I talked about some of those that you hang out with. So we kind of attributed it to the Fab Five.
We love that show.
The Queer Eye.
I love it.
It's amazing. So it's like you can't help but feel happy when you're with them. So the same thing when you're working out, you want to try to surround yourself with people with similar goals. And when we have this definition that we have to lift weights, and if you don't have weights, that automatically puts up this block. So one thing that we've done is we've let folks know, if you don't have equipment, dance. Put in a 5-minute dance period. Guess what? You're moving your body far more than you did 5 minutes ago, right? And when folks get into the whole, well, I need weights to get stronger, there's different methods to be able to train strength without using one piece of equipment. And it's a matter of changing up the frequency, intensity, or the tempo in which you're working so that you're tricking your central nervous system to really build that strength and recruit the muscles. And as you're doing that, you're releasing endorphins, which automatically just give you this great feeling. Too often folks get done with workouts and they're like, man, I feel great, because you just did something that your body is literally begging to do. I mean, Jen talks about it often. You're either going to be sore from sitting around too much, or you're going to be sore from moving. Which would you rather be? And
that's so good.
Yeah. And that soreness, like, to kind of go off of that the last little bit, that soreness from sitting around too much, that's our body basically saying, yeah, this must be it. So we're going to adapt and kind of lock in our muscles to these particular conditions, because our body is so much smarter than we are, and it adapts to make it so that it feels less stress from imposed stresses that we put on it. So it's just trying to be efficient. So moving more is going to make it so that you can be more efficient in life and just continuously feel those feel-good thoughts afterwards.
That is so great. I love how you put that. Our body is smarter than we are. It is always adapting to our normal conditions. If our normal conditions are sitting around, our body is going to support us in that by adapting. And we don't want that. It doesn't feel good. We don't want to be that kind of sore, or I don't want to be that kind of sore, at least. I don't know. Maybe some people would prefer that. But yeah, I really love the point you're making about you don't need any equipment. And I think that the whole reason, when I created this framework that I didn't say exercise is because I know from working with my mental health therapy clients that a lot of times when you bring up exercise, it feels really intimidating to people. It doesn't feel accessible. They have rigid definitions of what that looks like. and they feel like, well, I'm out of shape. I can't go on a run every day. Well, who said anything about a run? You know, if you want to, you could, that's an option. But it doesn't have to be that. And so I love the flexibility where you said, you know, just dance, just go on a walk, just move your body in some way.
I mean, when a child is learning how to walk, they don't just, I mean, some kids might just stand up and start running, but it takes time. I mean, LeBron James did not become one of the best basketball players in all of basketball era because he just decided, I don't want to do that. It's been
oh my gosh,
to make it. So you're chipping away at this massive mountain of life. And a lot of times folks will look at it and they'll say, I can't do it. Or if they do get into some sort of routine and they miss a day, suddenly they allow that day to define their entire journey. I've missed a year and I still come back. I mean,
yes.
It's time. And a lot of times that's also a barrier for people to start some sort of movement program. Well, what if I stop? What if I fall off? I get that a lot with the other company that I work with and talking with folks with their wellness program. And it's like, then we learn what was the trigger that that forced you to fall off. And let's put a plan together to overcome that. Because movement is key, and you got to start those baby steps and building back towards that running. So
yeah, I love what you're saying because I actually love resistance because I talk about self-care. Nobody wants to hear about that. Everybody says they don't have time. And so it's sort of enjoyable for me to figure out, you know, where is the resistance? What's that about? And how do we make this work for you? Because the way that I define self-care is identifying how you want to feel and prioritizing the things that make you feel that way. So it is mental health hygiene. It's not going to the spa or getting a mani-pedi. Like it's not any of that. I want to feel energized. That's one of my core desired feelings. So what helps me feel energized when I move my body every day, right? And so helping people connect those dots to move through resistance is so powerful. What else would you suggest if somebody was saying, you know, I just really can't. I'm too out of shape. I don't have the equipment. I don't like to dance. I feel too silly. Just how do you help people take that first step?
I like to encourage people. It's kind of like reversing back to what we were just saying a little bit, but it's that not trying to do something that you don't like to do, or maybe it is a little bit, maybe you don't love to do it, but it's not something you're not trying to shove a square into a circle is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
So what I like to say a lot is I want my people that I'm helping to meet themselves where they're at. Meet yourself where you are, not who you once were, because let me tell you, Dre is an ex-athlete. Mary Allison, you're an ex-athlete. You both understand. I'm not an ex-athlete, but I've always been very fitness oriented, and I've always been moving my body since I was a young woman, 7 years old. And when you're someone that no offense, but when you're a has-been, that is one way of getting thrown off track. When you're someone that has been this athlete, this big deal of a person that moved their body in a way that impressed other people, a dancer, an athlete, there's so many different types of people that have been in that category. There's also the people that have never done anything. So we have totally different sides of the spectrum, but the way that they come back is so vital. The way that they come to start to move their body, they're either coming back to moving their body or starting to move their body at all, is meeting yourself where you're at right here, right now. Not who you once were.
Yes.
An athlete that used to be. Not someone that you hope to be one day. The person that's never moved their body is maybe like, I'm curious, but I'm scared. I don't know where to start. So then whoever you are on any side of that spectrum, start by meeting yourself where you're at right here, right now. And then we don't overcommit. Can you give me one movement? Let's pick, maybe you want to do some squats, sitting on a chair and standing up. Squats they sound traditional, but we're just literally sitting down and standing up. That's all we're doing.
I would argue that squats are the most foundational movement you could do. You sit down and stand up all day.
We need to get down to the ground especially as we get into older age. The most important thing we need to do is be able to, if we're on the ground, we need to be able to get back up throughout our life. So meeting yourself where you're at, right here, right now. It does not matter how deconditioned you are. It does not matter that you've never done it before or that you've fallen so far off the horse you don't know how to come back. What matters is let's pick 1 to 2 movements and let's do that throughout our day. Maybe 5 times we squat and stand up intentionally, thinking about the muscles we're using, giving our body love, thinking about this as not a punishment because you want to be different, but as something you're getting back to your body because your body carries you and is in this life with you for your entire life.
Yeah.
And it deserves your attention. So maybe we're doing 5 squats and then we do that throughout the day 5 times. Now you've done 25 squats.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter that you didn't do it all at once. You did it throughout your day. Dre said this the other day. If he goes out and he runs for 5 minutes or whatever, and then he does that again several times a day, then at the end of the day, he's ran however many miles. You don't get to take those miles away just because he spread it out throughout the day.
Yep.
He got those miles in.
Yeah. So 40 minutes of running, hit in 7.5 miles of interval training. It was like, I did that time now. You can't take that away from me. That's in the bank. I just put that in the bank, as Jen would always say.
Yeah, yes. I like to talk about this money in the bank. I call it money in the body bank.
I love this. Okay, keep going.
Do you want to hear about that?
Yes, I do.
So the one thing that I am grateful, like I was saying, I've been in the industry for over 20 years, and so thus I've had to move my body. So that for me is my money in the bank, because like Dre said, he fell off the horse, so to speak, for about a year. I fell off the horse, you guys, for almost 6 years, and I am not even joking. And as a personal trainer, that is very devastating, and it's really hard to come back because the ego is there. And
yeah, you feel embarrassed and ashamed and all of that.
Yeah, who I once was and what I was able to do then. That's why I'm saying, where are you at right here, right now? Check that ego. It's not about that. So the money in the body bank is the fact that I had been so good to myself for so many years. I had been exercising and eating well and thinking about my body with love and getting massages and doing all these things that I built up this beautiful savings account of health and wellness for myself. And so when I hit that 6-year mark where I was like really having a hard time, because guess what, guys? Life throws curveballs. My dad passed away. We stopped having our CrossFit gym that we owned at the time. That was my home where I would always go and work out. That was my routine. So that got taken away. My dad passed away and I broke my foot. All within like a 2-month period of time. I fell off the friggin' horse like no other. But luckily I had that money in the body bank. And so that held me. I kept dipping into that savings account over years of time. And thankfully, because of that bank account that I had saved up for myself, I didn't fall so far off that I was ill and in the hospital with injuries and sickness and diabetes and high blood pressure. I had built up that savings account. And here's the beautiful thing. You can always put money in your body bank. You can start right here.
Yes.
I don't care if you're 60 years old. I don't care if you already have a pre-existing condition, or if you have diabetes or high blood pressure, or you have an injury. You can put money in that bank right now. Start your savings account now, because I'm going to tell you, the older you get, the more you're never going to regret putting money in that body bank.
I love this analogy.
It's like talking to a financial advisor when you ask them, when's the best time for me to start saving? Now?
Right now.
Yes. I live with a financial advisor. I know.
Yeah. And it can start with one movement a day. It doesn't have to be some huge thing. That's putting pennies in the bank, okay? Put the pennies add up.
Yeah.
And then compound interest happens, right? Like the effort compounds over time. I love it. My mom is in her 70s and she has end stage COPD. She has had that for 10 years. She's been on oxygen for many years. I don't know exactly when. After she got that diagnosis, after she was already on oxygen, she started going to chair yoga twice a week. And that's been a part of her routine for years. Yeah. Is she like the healthiest person? Absolutely not. However, she didn't say it's too late, I'm done, I can wait to die, right? And that's made a huge difference in her quality of life these past few years. Like if she can do that, in her mid to late 60s, anybody who's listening can do that now. They can go on a walk for 5 minutes 3 times a day and add up to 15 minutes. Like, I love the tiny change. The other thing it makes me think about when you talk about the money in the body bank is I always talk about with my clients, when you have a challenge or when you have a stressor, you have 4 choices. You can either address it head on, deal with it. You can avoid it and stick your head in the sand, which I typically don't recommend. You can adjust the way that you think about it, or you can just accept reality as it is if there's nothing you can do about it and you can't change your mindset around it. So when I'm talking to people, or you're talking to people who are like, movement is not accessible to me, I'm not going to start an exercise routine, that is avoidance, right? And so we're like, okay, so if you don't like where you're at with your fitness level right now, instead of judging that, how do you address that in a way that feels okay to you? And I love how you're making that so accessible by just putting some pennies in. Just split it up.
I use a little bit different method. Jen really has taken that and ran with it. And one thing that we learned early on when we really launched back online was it's okay to have 2 different voices and 2 different methods. So like my method is more or less, it's more systematic. So I'm very numbers driven. So for folks that are numbers driven, I use what's called a priority calculator. So we go ahead and put our goal on the very top of this priority calculator, and then we split it up into columns. So your first are these habits or the intentions that are going to help you get to that goal. And we limit it to 5, a minimum of 3, maximum of 5, because once we do more than 5, we're overwhelmed, right? So when you have that, then you come over to the next column and you scale it on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the most easy in regards to difficult to your life or difficult to making that happen, and 10 being it's so difficult that even if you did it for me, I would not do it, right? So you have that, and then we go over to the next column and how it impacts your goal. So 1 being it doesn't really matter, like it can happen, it's not going to affect it. 10 being if I don't do it, this goal is not going to be achieved. So we take those 2 numbers and we multiply it together. So say, for example, I wanted to get back to competing in CrossFit. I know that I need to get my training regimen together, nutrition, all that stuff. And I put these over into these calculations. When you multiply your difficulty by your impact, that gives you a number, right? Now, out of the 3 or 5 items, you're going to have various numbers. Whatever the highest number is, that's the goal you focus on first. So does that mean you ignore the other ones? No. But now you don't have these balls that you've tossed up in the air and you have to choose one, right? So now we've taken all these balls, we put them in a bucket, that list, and we're taking that one out that's the highest. And we're getting intentional focus on that one while still caring for the other one, right? So now we move forward. At the end of 14 days, we come back to it, we recalculate everything, and sometimes it changes. Sometimes it doesn't, and we still focus on that one thing. So it makes
that's genius.
I ended up coming up with it in my grad school with a buddy that was an engineer, because his biggest problem was when it came to fitness, he needs to have a problem. And once he has that problem, he creates an equation to solve that problem. And that's where most of us are at. We have this problem, but we don't have the wherewithal to create the equation to solve it. So apply it to 3 to 5 things. Can you come up with more than 5 things? Most definitely. I can come up with almost 50 things that I need to do to get back to competing in CrossFit, but I'm stopping it at 5 so I don't get overwhelmed.
That makes sense. And then when you recalculate after 14 days, you might find that potentially one of those things drops off the list and another thing comes on, right? So that you're not trying to do everything at once.
Exactly. So the goal is just
that's so smart.
Because like I said, like we said at the beginning, often we make this too difficult. I need to have the equipment. I need to do this. I need to do that.
It's all or nothing.
Exactly. And the goal is to make it so that you're at least 1% better every day.
Oh, I love that.
Whether that be with making one choice that's a little bit healthier in your food intake, whether that's that I went for a 5-minute walk today. That's 1% better. Are you going to see constant loss on the scale? No. Are you going to feel the difference every single day? No, but as long as you've made an effort to be 1% better, it adds up by the end of the day. So 360
I love that.
1% better, you've now exponentially increased your quality of life.
I just read The Compound Effect, so that's totally like blowing my mind, because thinking about like the compounding of just little simple habits over time, so important. And I love this priority calculator too, because you're focusing on a goal that you're moving toward. You're focusing on a desired outcome, as opposed to when it comes to exercise, so many people focus on what they want to lose, weight loss, inches lost. And I don't know about you, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but what I see a lot is a lot of really rigid exercise expectations from people and very restrictive dietary guidelines that feel really unsustainable.
Oh man,
the sustainability is top priority for Dre and I. Might have different approaches to the way that we coach people and try to help them with their mentality with getting more accustomed to exercise and movement and habit building. But we are very similar in what our bottom line is. And the bottom line is caring for our bodies and making sure we're moving healthfully and properly, and that it's sustainable. And the way that sustainability works with this idea is having something to come back to, no matter how many times we fall off the horse. That's going to happen. Life happens.
Yes.
There's always a reason why we can't, and literally sometimes we can't, and that's okay. But we can always come back.
I think that's a big one in the fitness industry, because I was guilty of it before. As a trainer, I was like, just show up. Why can't you show up? Well, then life happened to me, and I was like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to understand, you have to deal with life. And your workout shouldn't be something that is taking away from that. It should be adding to it. It should be something that you look forward to, not a punishment. So we were.
I love that together, where there is, yes, the just show up, just do you prioritize it? You find, you have time for the things that you prioritize. And thinking about how it supports how you want to feel and mental wellness and mental health and all of that, but also having a lot of self-compassion when it doesn't go as planned, because this is real life and it never goes as planned.
It's not.
And it really boils down to the priority aspect of it. When you are at work and you have a meeting with your boss, you show up. Yeah. You don't not show up. Of course not, right? If you have kids and you tell them, if you do X, Y, and Z, this is going to happen. Do you follow through? Of course you follow through. So when you set an appointment with yourself, why is it that you only pencil it in? I hate the word saying pencil it in, because it leaves room for erasing it and bumping it. So you need to get a freaking permanent marker and put that thing in there, carve it into cement, something that needs to take yourself through.
I think that we've heard that. People say prioritize yourself, put your own self, put yourself on your calendar. I know we've heard this before. The thing is that I think people are missing is that feeling that we get of when we feel good. Many people walk around not knowing what good really feels like. So it's hard to have something to go after. You don't know what you're chasing. And so sure, make myself a priority. It's a little vague for some people. Pen myself into my calendar. It's a little vague for some people because they've never felt that feeling of what really helps feels like. And maybe they're, I won't go there. But so the point is that I think that we have to just take these tiny, attainable, sustainable moves until we're at that point, which it happens gradually over time, and it's beautiful. All of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute, I've been doing this regularly now for 2 weeks, and I want more. Mm-hmm. It really happens. I can't tell you how many times I've seen my clients go, they start here and they're scared or they're resistant or they don't like exercise, traditional exercise. They're like, I'm a hiker, or I'm someone that likes to dance, or I don't like to move at all. All those type of people, I worked with all of them. And at the beginning, there's this resistance and they're barely getting through the warm-up. And that's okay. That's where we start with them. And we modify everything. And then in a couple weeks, they're like way through the warm-up and they're getting partway through the workout. Then they're all the way through the workout. And then they're like, guess what? After a workout, I went and took a walk because I was still feeling like I wanted to do. Your energy begets energy.
Yes. Those endorphins.
Yes, good old dopamine, right? So then what happens is you want more and you want more. And then all of a sudden you're this person that feels that feeling of what good and healthy feels like. And you finally understand why it's so important to pen yourself into your calendar and to make yourself a priority. But until you know what that
Yes.
feels, it's a little bit ominous.
Yes, absolutely. And I think what I hear from people quite often is I work with a lot of moms and a lot of helping professionals, foster parents. And what I hear all of the time is, you know, I would love to, but I can't because my kids need me. And so the reframe that I have for that is that you only get to show up as the best version of yourself when you take the best care of yourself. And there is no one size fits all for that. It truly is, what do you need? And that's going to be different than what I need. But what do you need? And so you have to get used to asking yourself that question and honoring the answer. And I try to, you know, I wish that people would just believe like, yes, I deserve to feel good because I do, because I'm worthy, but they don't. So I'm always trying to sort of come at it from an angle that people can connect with, which is often, you know, the question of, well, who is the mom or the dad that you want your kids to have? Mm-hmm. Who do they deserve you to be? Okay, so what helps you be that person? And, you know, for me, I need to go to the gym. I know that that's a piece of it. I really hate working out in my house. I did do it during COVID. And I feel like COVID gave me a great lesson in accountability because prior I was going to a lot of yoga classes. I was going to a running group. You know, I was doing things like that with other people. And I really realized like, oh, well, if I am who I think I am, there's no one else to be accountable to anymore. So it's on me now. Like I have to show up. And like, what does self-accountability look like for me? And one thing Matt and I did together, we just finished a couple weeks ago, the 75 hard challenge. For me, it was a great reset, right? I was not focusing on my exercise routine. I wasn't where I wanted to be with it. It was an excellent reset. It was not sustainable. 30 days into it, I realized like it was really an overcorrection for me. I kind of like limped through the last third of it, but I did it. I got it done. And I didn't think I was making any changes. Well, in 75 hard, you have to take a progress picture every day. So at the end of it, I was able to see like, I haven't lost very much weight because that's the typical measure that people measure exercise success by. I haven't lost very much weight, but my body looks so different. And so being able to see that, I was like, oh, and actually taking the pictures every day was the hardest part for me. Like I did not love that in the beginning, but I knew that the part that was hardest would also like hold the most opportunity for growth. And within like 2 weeks, I would say, I was able to see those pictures every day and truly feel like I love my body. It is not perfect, but I love it. Like it's done a lot of things for me, right? And I had this like new appreciation and gratitude. And so I think, you know, finding the ways to see the change, measure the change, whether that's with this priority calculator or thinking about the body bank is so important for people too, because I think that's where we give up, like not doing anything anyways.
I mean, I love this thing that I picked up from a fellow trainer, the 2-4-8. So it typically takes 2 weeks before you start to feel difference. It's 4 weeks before you actually start to see that difference, and 8 weeks before you start to have somebody come to you and say, "Oh my God, you look so good." So it's like understanding that most people get to just at the cusp of 2 weeks or just the cusp of 4 weeks, and they're like, "It's not working. I'm done."
Give up.
And it's mostly because our society lives and dies by the scale.
Yeah.
And we don't understand that we have things like visceral fat. We have circumference measurements. We have our energy, your sleep patterns, your mood. These are all metrics of actual progress. Whereas the scale, and with the other company I work with, the scale lets you know what your decisions the previous day had. So if you see a 2-pound increase, then you look back at your nutrition, which I tell everybody every day, your nutrition does not lie. If you log it, it's not going to lie to you. So look back at your nutrition, you see, oh shoot, I had like 6,000 milligrams of sodium. I had about 500 grams of sugar. That's probably why you had this 2-pound increase in a day. So cut that back for 3 days, and all of a sudden you're going to see that gone again, right? So the scale, instead of using it as a metric of success It should be this metric of a tool of, oh, so that's what I did yesterday. I'm learning now as I move forward how to continuously see the results I want.
Yes, and how my body responds to it, because that's so different for everybody too. It reminds me, what you're saying reminds me of that quote that says, what can be measured can be managed. So like using the scale not as like an indication of success or failure, but as something to help you manage your choices throughout the day.
Absolutely. I love
Makes
that.
so much sense.
The visceral fat thing is such a key thing for that's been helping my clients a lot lately. I have a picture. Visceral fat, if for those that don't know, is the fat that's around our vital organs. It's the fat that's very dangerous. It's the fat that leads to health issues. It's not the fat that we get to watch disappear as we exercise. So what I've been showing a visual to my clients so they can see that fat, because mental thinking about your body as you're exercising and what you're doing for it is so helpful when you can't see the changes on the scale. When maybe you are taking pictures and you're not seeing a difference. Maybe your clothes aren't fitting differently. There's all these ways of measuring our successes, and sometimes you don't see anything, and that is very discouraging, and it can throw you off. It can make you. So when we can measure, when we can know that that visceral fat around our vital organs is, our body is a survivor. It's going to go after the thing. It's going to help the thing that keeps us alive first. That would be that visceral fat. We need to deplete that before it can start going into the stored fat in the other parts of our body. So people usually quit once they've gotten a lot of that visceral fat has gone down, and they're doing amazing. Their body is working. They are being successful. And just because they can't see it, they're like, well, I quit right before it starts going to the stored fat, which is the stuff that we want to see go away.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so helpful. And really what I'm taking from that, you know, if I were listening to this as I listen to you, is trust the process.
Yes.
Do the things that feel good to you. Move your body. Find a way that moving your body feels good to you, because it doesn't have to look the same for everyone. And it probably shouldn't. Like, we all like different things.
And when it comes to success, like the biggest thing, you asked it earlier, the biggest thing I would recommend to folks is stop putting a number like the scale or even clothes as that end marker, because too often I've had clients say, well, when I get here, I'm going to be happy. And then they get there and suddenly they realize they're not happy. And then you're faced with that deeper realization, I'm just not happy with myself. So trying to actually put together physical activity, some tangible goals that you have control over, because we don't have control over how our body's going to react to workouts, how our body's going to react to nutrition. We do have control on what kind of routine we can put in place to achieve this activity or this task that we've always wanted to do. I have folks that are like, I've always wanted to run a half marathon. Awesome, let's freaking do it. Well, what about the weight loss? I promise you, that's going to be a result of getting to the goal. You're going to get to this goal, and this is going to be what's going to happen along the way. So
I love what you talked about too, with what you can and cannot control. Since Matt and I have been together, there's been this sort of expression framework that we use with our kids around attitude and effort. We're saying those words constantly. I don't care if you get a C. What I care about is your attitude and your effort. I care how you show up, because that's what you can control, you know? And so same thing when it comes to fitness and diet, we get to control our choices. We control what we put into our body. We control if we choose to go for a walk or binge Netflix. And you know what? Sometimes that's valid too. But what I tell my clients is, if you take nothing away from anything I say ever, what I want you to learn is how to check in with yourself and just ask yourself these 3 questions. How am I feeling right now? What do I need? And how can I meet that need? And if you do it, that would be even better. But even if you don't, like, just getting into the habit of learning to listen to yourself is so important.
Check in. The one thing we didn't really touch on today, and I know we're probably getting past our time, but this is just so exciting to talk with you about all this. The thing that what happens, the reason why it's so important to do those small attainable goals, there's the reason of just creating new habits. We're actually carving new patterns into our brain. I mean, there is a whole science behind that. I know many of you have probably heard that you can recreate grooves in your brain, right? That the neural pathways, you can change our belief systems. We can change the way we feel and think about ourselves and habits will change because of that. So when we do a small step, maybe we do one movement a day and we've made it through a whole week. Now we feel successful. And now we attribute that new habit with joy. Because when we're successful, we feel joyful. We're proud of ourselves. We see that we are capable of doing hard things. And then you add on to that. And now you're making this new groove in your brain that's attributing fitness and movement to happiness. And now you're a whole other new person.
And now you know to the chips and salsa and wine at the end of the workday.
Now let's not get crazy.
You're now looking forward to working out. So it's like you'll know when that happens, when you miss a day of a workout or you miss whatever your movement is, and you think back, man, I missed it.
And you miss it. You actually miss missing it.
Suddenly it's triggered. You've changed it. It's now a habit. Now get back on it.
Okay, so I had a moment like that very recently in my own life where I was like, whoa, like things have shifted for me because there's this amazing taco truck that comes to the little corner store by our house every Tuesday. Taco Tuesday, the best tacos. And it's always been a priority for me to get there as soon as possible after I'm done seeing my clients because they sell out of everything. And I don't eat meat. I only eat seafood. So there's like one option for me there. So that's always my priority. Well, after 75 hard ended, I no longer had to do 2 workouts a day. I didn't have Matt here. So there was like no plan. Like it was on me to go get the tacos. And I went to the gym first and I was at the gym working out and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I just valued my workout more highly than my tacos. Like if I miss the tacos, it's going to be okay.
You regrouped a pattern in your brain.
I totally did. And I love that you brought that up because I love that you brought that up though, because I talk to my clients about that all the time. And I use a staircase pattern. And I say, if you're at 0 and you want to go to 10, you don't go from 0 to 10 in one leap. And if you try, you fall down and you try again and you fall down and you try again, you fall down, and then you give up and you stop trying. Instead, what I really want you to do is figure out what will get you to 1 and get to 1 and just hang out at 1 and create 1 as your new comfort zone, get used to that. And then we'll go to 2. And then we'll, eventually what you're doing is creating sustainable forward momentum instead of that. I like to call it go big, then go home, because people try to leap out of their comfort zone and then our brain freaks out, sounds all the safety alarms, and we go back.
Yes.
And so we have to create sustainable change with small steps forward.
Absolutely.
And how
I love that you brought that up.
Or personally, have you hit a plateau and you're just like, oh, I'm at this plateau, and you feel this negative energy towards it? A plateau is not a bad thing. That's an opportunity to stop, look around, enjoy the work that you've done to accomplish this plateau, and then look at the things that you've done to get here and say, so what small changes can I do to see that progress continue?
And that's such an important piece too, because again, I see people all the time hit that plateau and go, oh my goodness, I'm still so far away from where I'm trying to get to. And they feel discouraged. And I have to remind people all the time, when you hit that point, sit down and rest for a minute and look back the other way, because you've actually come all of this way. My kids are in gymnastics, and my youngest, she's 8. Last week was like, I had a bad day on bars, and it's just, I'm bad at bars now. And she's just having this whole meltdown about it. And I literally took out a piece of paper and I was like, you can't fall off a mountain. Do you know what that means? And I drew her a mountain and I called it Bars Mountain. And we talked about all the skills that she's learned. And having a bad day, you're still way up here on the mountain and you're still trying to get up there, but it's okay to hang out here or slip backwards a little bit and lose your footing. You can't lose all that progress. It's like the body bank. You can't lose what you've put in.
Yeah.
You guys are so full of golden nuggets. I love this. What sort of final tips, tricks, advice would you want to share with people who are like, okay, I get it. I really do want to start moving my body more. I'm not really sure where to start. What would you tell those people?
I'd say start right now with what you have, where you are. And if you don't know what that is, reach out to someone who does. That will guide you in a way that's safe and comfortable for where you are right now, right here, right now. Mm-hmm. So, just off the hat, pick something. If you don't know a movement to do, there's so many movements on YouTube or whatnot. If you're home and you don't feel like you want to hire someone, or maybe that's not your reality right now, there's a lot of things that you can do. Like you were saying earlier, take a walk, choose one thing, even if you don't want to leave your house, because that's a thing for people. Sometimes you don't want to have to go outside and go for a walk. It's cold. There's lots of excuses to not go outside. So find something within your house. Do you have stairway? Do you have your body?
Do you have a floor? Yeah, you can just lay on the floor, do a couple movements.
Do one thing.
One movement. Start with one and build from there.
Do 5 reps of that one movement. Maybe it's 5 squats. Maybe it's 5 sit-ups. Do that every single day. Just that one thing every single day. Start there.
That's 100% it. I mean, start with something that's so simple that it seems ridiculous. For example, Jen had to start with 10 minutes of rowing. After where she was, 10 minutes of rowing was like, are you serious? But then it was like, if you can't do it, what the heck? Why can't I do 10 minutes?
Meet yourself where you're at.
For me, it was,
yourself where you're at.
I had to put on my workout gear and sit in my living room, and I felt like an idiot wearing my workout gear. So I was like, well, I better go work out. So whatever it is, find that thing that's going to get you to do the most simple first step. Just like you said, get to that first step and do that for at least 22 days.
Yes.
And then progress from there. So,
and then add in lots of self-compassion and don't judge yourself if you're not where you want to be, because every little step is going to take you closer to that goal if you keep that positive momentum.
Exactly. You're not where you want to be, but you're a step away from where you used to be.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. So good. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us about movement and how important this is for overall health and well-being. I really focus on mental health and on self-care as mental health hygiene, but it's all connected. Like you cannot have mental health in isolation. Like we have to take care of ourselves. We have to recognize that it's all holistic and it all goes together. And I so appreciate your perspective on this.
Thank you. We appreciate all your gold nuggets too. You have some really awesome mentality shifts and things that I got to hear from you today as well.
Thank you. I talk to lots of people. I'm always trying to think of different metaphors.
You're awesome. Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.